Welcome back to Natty 19's Behind the Screen. We're going to be covering episodes 2 and 3 today. We got the whole crew here this time. I think we were missing K-Way the first time. But
we were, yeah.
We're all here tonight.
I wasn't here.
And, yeah. Let's get right into it. So we had our first combat, right?
Yeah. We had our first combat. It's the very first one on the show that we hinted at the end of episode 1, but the beginning of episode 2, we launched right into it. So for the people that don't know what D&D is like that might be listening to the show, we should maybe talk about the basic flow of combat.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, we could go into how combat works.
All right.
Who wants to lead that one?
Maybe our DM should do that.
I don't know how combat works. I just follow you guys' lead. Yeah, combat's decided. Everybody rolls a d20 for initiative, and the initiative is modified by your dex, the character's dex modifier. And that kind of determines who acts first in combat. I don't have any notes or anything in front of me. I'm just going off the top of my head.
Dex is short for dexterity. That's one of everybody that plays this game. All of us here that are playing characters on this show have a character. And the character has certain attributes like strength, dexterity, intelligence. Dex is short for dexterity. That's one of those attributes, and it helps us determine who goes first in the initiative order.
And then from there, I'll add everybody to my initiative tracker, and that's pretty much I put everybody in order of their roles, including the monsters. And then we'll start with the person who got the highest. And from there, they can choose. You get a movement action and a regular action during their turn. And as far as like how long it takes in game, each person's turn is 6 seconds. It equates to within the game. So I believe, right? Is that accurate?
That's how.
Yeah. So
I always thought it was 6 seconds. And it's all kind of simultaneously happening that 6 seconds. So, like, all of us going. It's not like, when I go, it's 6 seconds. And then when Quincy goes, it's another 6.
Right. One round of combat probably doesn't take 30 seconds. Right.
It's like 6
all
to
of
10
us
seconds.
acting on each other, like, at the same time.
In
so
playtime,
it's a little bit more abstract. It's
Right.
structured, but yet abstract.
So then once everyone goes, then it goes back to the top of the next round. Whoever rolled first on initiative is going next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you rinse and repeat.
That pretty much goes until somebody is either dead or the combat's resolved in one way, shape, or form.
Yes.
I mean, I think most people already know this, but this is just for the maybe few people who have never played this game and are listening to
Few
this.
people that have never played.
Right.
That are listening. The few people that are
Everybody's
listening.
played D&D. Are you kidding me? Everybody's played D&D.
Everyone I know has played D&D, so.
So actually, like, I had a few questions because our first episode, we didn't do any combat whatsoever. And we spent the whole, like, all of our characters were introduced. We embarked upon this quest. We made our way to this new land of Chult. So my question is for the team, like, how did you guys feel about our first combat? Not even just the team, but also the GM. What were your impressions? Like, what do you think about fighting as a unit together for the first time?
Just off the top of my head, we're doomed. That's my first impression.
Really that bad?
I'll be surprised if we make it past episode 10 without TPK.
Oh, come on. That's pessimistic.
Copernicus did have a hard go in that fight.
He's the only one that had a hard go.
Yeah,
Hey, character death maybe. TPK, that's kind of,
This is
that's
the first
pessimistic.
combat, and we came close to rolling a death save on Copernicus.
Oh,
But
that's
we
true.
have you guys made it.
All right. What about
Zavril? What was your take on that fight?
Yeah, I don't think Copernicus is going to make it. Maybe past episode 5 or something.
but you're not
He's giving himself too much credit there.
But you're not putting your money on a TPK?
No, I'm not putting my money on a TPK. I'm pretty sure Zavril would be able to hold his own in battle. We'll see.
Everybody else will die, but Zavril will walk away.
He'll coolly, calmly walk away.
With that, I was kind of trying to take things a little bit slow, show the fact that I like to think about combat as long as I'm not thrown right into it. And I don't know, as far as I could tell, yeah, I think we're doomed though. I don't know.
Oh, that's two for the doomed.
I don't think Quincy or Erame, I don't even know where she went to in that battle. She kind of disappeared on everyone there.
Why don't we go, Arame? What was Arame's? You took a little bit of a more deceptive approach during that fight.
I did. I was nervous in the beginning because things were not going well, but I felt because of my character, my hands were tied. Arame doesn't want anyone to know the nature of her magic or of anything else, even her heritage at this point. So I think she's a little bit more optimistic because she knows that she wields a great power. And nobody else knows it, but she knows that she can be more effective. And I think she looks up to Copernicus and Zavril as experienced adventurers. So I think she's got a little bit more of a positive outlook, especially seeing Quincy in the first battle and how helpful he was in healing not only us but other people involved in the battle. I think she's a little bit more optimistic as long as we play our characters to their optimal. We use what we have, we can make it.
Right. So she's a sleeper too, right?
Yeah.
She's an ace in the hole.
I think our party makeup, we really have to work together as a team if we're going to survive,
But you don't think that's happened yet in this first battle?
No, we did. You rezzed me, and no, it was good. It was a good fight.
Yeah.
That's how I really feel.
Yep.
My take on it, prepping the first combat, new characters, it was a challenge. I obviously I had no idea. I mean, I looked over you guys' character sheets. I saw what you were capable of, but it's hard. It's hard to look at that and say they're going to be okay fighting this, or
Oh yeah, I mean, like just GMing other games. Sometimes, especially running an adventure path where something's pre-written, I'm like, oh my God, there's no way my players could handle this situation. And then they always surprise me.
They surprise, and I knew you guys were going to pull through. There is a safety net rated for a little bit more of a challenge for you guys, but you were in a populated area. There was plenty of opportunity. Nobody's going to just sit there and let you guys fight this thing on your own for the most part.
Yeah.
There was, it isn't kind of poor man's town, so there's no guards or anything like that coming to your aid. But there was the occasional stone throw here and there, and then of course you had
the mob.
Yeah, and then you had the heroic merchant the cobbler who jumped in there to help out, although it didn't work out well for him, and it may have even hindered you guys a little bit.
That merchant actually surprised me. I didn't expect him to jump in there.
Pretty much that thing hit like a friggin' truck, and I knew that. I knew that if you guys got hit once, you'd feel it, and you would immediately be scared, and that was what I was going for with this. I knew that you guys would be okay for the most part unless it critted. Then there was always that chance that somebody would have died.
Yeah, I want to say like the first time you hit me, it did like 19 damage or something.
Yeah.
It was like, what?
Oh, it was doing damage every hit. It was doing solid damage.
I think that if, as a GM, you could constantly manage that near-death experience, because those are my favorite battles. Like, and it's stressful and it sucks, and losing a character would suck, but like, it's exciting.
I guess the message with that battle I really wanted to get out is that I wanted you guys to get hit by this thing and realize what's going on in this adventure.
That it's a ton of bricks, right?
Yeah. I wanted to get that out there right away. So I think it worked out well. I think I succeeded in that goal, and I think you guys pulled through and handled it really well. I didn't have to. There wasn't much help. Outside, a couple the stones that were coming in were doing 1-2 damage here and there. Wasn't a lot. I mean, you guys came together. I was skeptical just because not in your class builds or anything like that, but more so the personalities that you guys have kind of glued to your characters, not really wanting to fight. Irame with her secrecy. I was like, if she doesn't use her magic, these guys are dead. If Quincy doesn't use his rapier, these guys are dead,
Well, that actually, from Quincy's perspective, the whole battle is kind of intimidating because Quincy is not a martial character. He knows how to use a rapier, but he's not you know, he doesn't have any special feats, and he doesn't have any. He hasn't invested a lot character wise, like mechanic wise, into the rapier. He just knows how to use it. So most of his combat.
I guess I should have said magic, offensive magic.
Oh
as
well, that's
well.
that, and
Yeah.
that's another thing is most of Quincy's magic is not combative,
Right.
either. So the and you know we'll see more about that, and maybe that will evolve as he spends more time in Schultz, but Quincy is definitely more of a support character, and to him it's about the team. So this combat, I feel like we were able to establish ourselves as a team. Maybe. I mean, would you agree with that, Copernicus?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we helped each other out, and I mean, we're just kind of jumping in feet first. We didn't really know so much what each other's powers were. So,
Right.
and
Well,
when
that-
it went
that-
down, you know, we made the right choices and all survived. So,
Yeah, and that also like raises the question, like as a character, is from each one of our characters' perspectives through the battle, like what was the impression that we had of the other characters, you know? So like I'll start with Zavril. Like I'll start let's all share our impression of Zavril in combat. I thought Zavril was going to be all talk, little action. I didn't think that he was inexperienced or anything, but I kind of thought maybe he was overplaying his abilities. But really, I don't know. I thought he lived up to his talk.
yep. Yeah, I think we had this conversation before.
Yeah,
And then I think even during that fight, John said something about
he's bringing it. Yeah,
he's really showing his worth now.
Yeah, he's delivering it, you know. I saw his sheet. I saw his build. You know, there was no question. I obviously kept it close to my chest. I try not to reveal, especially early in the campaign. I never reveal too much to the other players, what other players have. I like that coming out organically in the story at each player's discretion. But I knew what he was capable of. So, and I kind of let that slip a little bit. You know, it was in the heat of the moment, but yeah, I mean, it can't. He definitely delivered. Copernicus was definitely brazen. I didn't expect Copernicus to get in the front, get right in the front like that. That was definitely a surprise.
See, that's
And that
funny
was right
because
away.
I think Quincy would have expected that of Copernicus based on his impression that Copernicus is this
Sure.
badass half
Yeah,
drow.
that's how I'm playing him.
Yep. And
There's
that's
no fear.
right. But having looked at you guys' sheets from a DM's perspective,
Right.
I did not expect. I expected Irame and Copernicus to be on the back line. You know.
Wow, interesting.
See,
Yeah.
Copernicus surprised me too. I didn't think he was going to be that foolish rushing into battle.
I expected
Like,
Zavril to be right in the front, Copernicus and Irame in the back, Quincy being like in between, you know, throwing buffs out. That's kind of what when reading you guys on paper, that's what I kind of pictured. But
What was Arame's impression of both Zavril and Copernicus in that battle with the Ankylosaur?
Irame is naive. As far as she believes people. She doesn't think that people, well, you know, why would they lie? Or why would they pretend to be something that they weren't? Which is funny because that's exactly what she's doing. But I think that she just with both of them immediately felt like, okay, we've got people on our team that know what they're doing. Like this Zavril character, as haughty and obnoxious as he is gonna save us.
Ouch.
You know?
So you actually put like full faith in
Yeah, I
in
had
him.
faith in both of them. And even with Quincy, maybe not as far as faith as in fighting, because Quincy was upfront about his, you know, inexperience there, but as far as companionship, because she relates to Quincy a little bit more than to the others. So Irame immediately felt comfortable, and I tried to portray that in the scene where she, you know, she's excited to put that sign up, like, this is us, this is ours.
Yep.
what about Quincy?
What is it? I'm curious. What were you guys' impression of Quincy?
Well, Copernicus was quite impressed with.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dodge the tail when it swiped at you.
Hell yeah, leaping over it.
Yeah, I thought that was great. Plus, you rezzed Resed me twice, or you healed me twice. Resed me once, pretty much, from unconscious. Yeah, I think there's a budding friendship there. And then Irame just kind of slunk in the back. She did fire that bow, so he was all
She
about
knew
that.
she had to. She knew she had to be seen doing something.
Because he looks at you two as academics, but if you're willing to fight this Ankylosaurus and get in the battle, then you'd earn his respect.
Right.
Okay, wait. What was your take on Quincy in that fight?
Quincy's definitely inexperienced and young. Probably shouldn't necessarily already be on an adventure of this magnitude. Was the first thought that came into my head. I mean, I'm sure he'll grow on me, but right now,
But he
I'm looking
hasn't.
at-
So throughout that fight, he hasn't left an impression that has changed your mind on that aspect.
No, he just seems more and more, I don't know, kind of inexperienced as time goes on.
Oh, definitely.
So-
I heard you use the word adventure of this magnitude, that phrase. Like, so in your mind, like this expedition, this is like what do you mean this magnitude? Like, what do you think is on the line here?
Well, I'm sure it will come out in later episodes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
The adventure of a life. This is the one. This is the lifetime adventure, right?
Right. This is what's gonna make or break Zabril, as far as his stardom.
Yeah. Well, so what about, so you started to talk about your impression of Copernicus's impression of Erme. I think Quincy didn't really expect much of Erme in terms of combat prowess. I think he views Erme as similar to himself, an academic, inexperienced in battle, and he had no idea about any other arcane talents or anything like that. So
Or the fact she could use a bow, even.
right, and that she pulled the bow out is, it's admirable. I mean, you're doing something. You're getting engaged. You're doing something. So I think from his perspective, he's not evaluating her like in terms of whether or not she's a great like fighter or warrior or anything like that. I think he's more impressed and glad that she's part of the team, that everybody was in there and doing something. And he's of the mind that as long as we're all working together, we could take down, we can get through anything. What was that? Did Zavril have an impression of Irame?
No, he didn't really think too much of her. He actually didn't see her on the battlefield for most of the fight. It's something that he paid attention to. He eventually did see her with her bow, actually having confidence to, I guess, initially he kind of thought she was hiding, and then he saw her have confidence when she did come in with her bow, but he didn't really pay too much mind to her. So
That it's difficult as a player and a character to balance that, especially after hitting the Ankylosaurus with the poison damage and stuff. It's hard to not. Irame simultaneously felt proud of herself and also, but had to hide that but also felt ashamed of herself because she knew you guys saw her disappear for a portion of the battle. It was a very hard thing to portray.
So out of that battle, though, we did have a few questions, and one of them was the prone. When I went prone,
Can you crawl to disengage?
yeah, could you crawl to disengage? I think Chuck asked that.
So just to clarify, the disengage, word for word from the player's handbook, says if you take the disengage action, your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks for the rest of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it says.
That's all it says. So honestly, with that, I'm left with no choice but to say that when you're prone and you're crawling away at a rate of 15 feet, if you have full movement speed, then you don't provoke. If you disengage, right?
Right. I mean, the cost is that it's not.
an
It
action.
takes an action.
Takes an action.
yeah, as long as you use an action.
Yeah.
I think this is a good time for the disclaimer of we're not rules experts by any means. So
Obviously, yeah.
There's obviously there's always a chance that in another book or in another section, it might go into a little bit more detail about this. But as far as under the disengage description,
I could go either way.
it is
with
what it is there, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
if
mean-
you've got movement, you can, and if you can get out of its threat range with that movement, then you're safe, you know? You just used your action to do it.
I'd agree with that. And I'd also like to add that any RPG that you play, no matter what it is, there's always going to be like these rules questions.
Death and dying, to kind of reiterate, so when a player drops to 0 hit points, you're unconscious. And if you begin your turn at 0 hit points, you then roll a death save. And if you pass 3 times, you are brought back up to 1 hit point.
I think I'll just also get a little bit more technical, just to let people know that don't know. A saving throw is basically like all of our other rolls on the game. We roll a 20-sided die, and we add some kind of bonus. For the death save, though, it's
In
just
the death save, it's fixed. There's no
it's
bonus.
fixed,
If you
right.
roll an 11 or above, you pass, right?
Yep.
Pretty sure. And in a 10 or below, you fail. If you
So
get
it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah, and you don't have to get consecutive successes or fails. Pretty much every time you roll, you add either a success or a fail. And if you get 3 fails, you die permanently. If you get 3 successes, you're back up to 1 hit point.
But then instant death can occur, though. Right.
Under the circumstance where you take the amount of damage in 1 hit
A shitload of damage.
that's equal to your maximum hit points while you're at 0. So you could have, for example, if you had 12 hit points, and let me see what this says. If a character has a maximum of 12 hit points, currently only has 6 hit points, and she takes 18 damage from the attack, she's dead outright. Yeah, so there is no negatives in 5e. You're at 0 or you're above 0.
Oh, known mistakes. I wanted to just get that out, that when Copernicus gained the hit points at the end of the battle, it shouldn't have happened because with the Hexblade curse, when I went unconscious, the curse would have gone away. So I did
gotcha.
drop unconscious during that battle. It's a minor note, but just to get it out there.
Yeah,
I know that I made the mistake. and-
Sure, absolutely. It raises a good point too. As a GM, I don't, especially in a crew where we all know each other, we're all friends. We've all been, we've been doing this. I don't really pay much attention to what you guys are doing. If I do catch it, I'll call it out. But most of the time, I just trust you guys to know what you're doing. And no. I mean, some people might be wondering that if they should be a little bit more critical of what their players are doing. I think a GM has a lot going on as it is that I'll let things go. So it's greatly appreciated when you realize you make a mistake to bring it out and correct it. I mean, that's honest playing, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Was that the only like mistake
That I know I made.
right? Okay.
I can't
Yeah, I'm
say for
sure
all
we
the
made a
others.
ton.
Yeah.
But,
I made absolutely no mistakes.
Right. Perfect.
Yes. It makes 2 of us.
the Tabaxi.
You want to talk about the Tabaxi?
Yeah, I mean,
What was it?
the Tabaxi was that's a race that I wasn't really all too familiar with prior to reading in Child.
I'd never heard of him.
This was the guy that came up with the frayed rope.
Yup,
Right.
Simpa.
He was Simba.
Yep.
Simba.
Not to
The-
be
the
confused
cat.
with Simba. Yes.
They're cat people, right?
Yep, the cat people. We've seen iterations of feline humanoids in many other games.
Yeah, a lot
even
of-
in
a lot of
even in
games.
D&D. You've got the Rakshasa.
Rakshasa.
Yeah.
Those guys.
Those
They were
guys.
like 2nd edition, right?
Yeah, I think they're still in.
I
They're
think they
still in
were
the
around,
Monstrous
yeah.
Manual.
Yep. Might be back as far as the first.
And then you had the Red Steel campaign setting, 2nd edition. You had the Rakasta. Or the Rakasta. That was the name of
So
that
a slight
race.
alteration
Yeah,
of
a
the
little-
name, maybe.
Yeah, yep. And they were a playable race. and then of course in other games you see them cropping
Probably
up with
like
various
what?
names.
Like WoW or EverQuest or some of
EverQuest,
those
yeah,
probably have.
exactly, yeah. I don't think there's one in WoW. I could be wrong. I did play EverQuest, and it's
been a while
in
since
there
I
it's
played.
in EverQuest 1 there was the Vashir, and K-Way's probably more familiar. In EverQuest 2 is the Karens. But yeah, it's a feline race. You see them peppered throughout just about every
What
RPG.
are they called in Doctor Who?
Ooh, good question. What are they?
Is that in the later seasons? I think I've only seen like 5
Isn't there-
seasons of the new.
They show up in quite a few.
Yeah.
I don't know. Someone send us a comment. What are they calling Doctor?
Yeah, somebody write in. Let us know what the cat kind are called in Doctor Who.
We'll need listeners. For
That's
that.
what they're called. Isn't it?
The
We'll
Mom,
find out in a few years.
Mom, can you look it up?
So just a quick description. Tabaxi they're taller than most humans at 6 to 7 feet. So their bodies are slender, covered in spots.
So either like a leopard or
okay, yeah. So they're spotted or striped sometimes.
So like a leopard or a tiger.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I imagine when if you were to create a Tabaxi as a player character, you can customize the way your fur color ranges and all that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Are
Yeah.
they playable races?
They
in
are
5e.
Yeah, they are. That's
After you unceremoniously kill Copernicus, I'm probably gonna come back as a Tabaxi.
Nice.
Should come back as the very Tabaxi that
Yeah, I got
fucking
screwed over at the
Devitas
docks.
screwed.
Yeah, so I just wanted get that out there because it was a race that I wasn't really familiar with prior to Tomb of Annihilation and reading about it. I don't know if they were added with it or
Yeah, I don't think I've seen them. Like I played a lot of D&D, maybe not in recent years, but maybe it was just the style that we were playing and the jams that we've had.
right, and that's
such.
kind of where I feel like a noob almost because we never played with Tabaxi.
Right.
So whether they're new or whether we just never played with them, I don't know. I feel like I didn't really see them before.
They've been around since the first edition, second edition, and
Fuck
then it
you,
went to
K-Way.
fifth edition. Interesting.
What do you look it up?
Yeah.
K-Way's on Google.
All right. What else we got?
I wanted to think about, so we came into Port Nyanzaru, and that experience happened in the first episode, but we didn't really, there was some description and stuff in the episode, but we didn't really talk about it after the fact behind the screen. I don't know. What's this city like? Where this is a new land, not a new land, I guess. It's a fairly unexplored.
Yeah, it's a new iteration. It was, and this is just, I did some reading probably months and months ago about this while I was prepping for this. It used to be an island, but...
Nyanzaru itself or the whole...
Oh, no, all of Chult.
All of Chult.
Used to be an island, but the land's shifted.
Oh, okay.
And we're in a new era, so to speak, in the realms. Chult is now a peninsula, but
That's
it's...
weird. Is there any, lore around
There
it?
is lore. There is lore.
Yeah, they're called tectonic plates, asshole.
Yeah, the tectonic plates, they
They
shift,
usually
they
don't
move.
happen in fucking a year.
No, I mean, like I said, it's been months since I read up on this, and I probably should refresh myself, but off the top of my head, and I could be vague or downright wrong, but Chult itself is kind of dedicated to one god. Rather than the entire pantheon. The lore amongst them, there was an agreement, I can't remember, but the agreement was made and it was left to this one god to do as he will with.
This kind of sounds familiar. They're like a Greek analog or something. Maybe Hades or somebody.
There could be
Interesting.
inspiration
Yeah,
or a reference to real,
Myth from history.
real myth. Yeah, exactly.
Some real myths.
Real mythos of sorts. An actual real world myth that it drew inspiration from. I don't know. But anyway, so moving on, this god, without revealing too much, because this is actually a lot more prevalent as the adventure continues. You guys are going to be kind of digging up lore about this, so I won't go into too much detail about it. But that's kind of why Chult is separate from the world, is because it is, in fact, in its own time because of this god. If you can imagine the pantheon kind of shaping the world as it evolves, you have this land that's just being shaped by this one god who's a bit of a trickster. And that's as much as I'll say on his description. But
So does that mean like the other lands, like in Realm, because there are multiple gods, that their interplay and relationships and how they interact with mortals, like there's a different, like how it evolves, how the cultures evolve,
Exactly. Yep.
occurs differently than this one isolated place where this one god just has complete
complete
influence.
play.
Yeah.
It's
And if you
very
think
similar
about
to
it,
like in how an environment works on an island, because
yeah,
an ecosystem on an island develops very differently than an ecosystem on a continent.
That's right.
Right.
And the more you have in there, I would think the faster it evolves. The more moving parts. Whereas this one god kind of has all the time in the world and no one else interfering. He can just keep it the way he wants it.
Right. So
There's
it's
no
more
real
homogenous than, an influence of various diversities.
Yep. So as far as that's Chult as a whole, Port Nyanzaro itself is it's the bastion of civilization in Chult. It's the one and only place that of such a magnitude that you're going to find. You might find some other ancient ruins of large cities that once thrived in some time period, but as far as currently active cities, Port Nyanzaro is the one.
So is this like my impression is a lot of these merchant companies are trying to get, they're trying to get their foothold, and they're trying to establish themselves in Port Nyanzaro. Yep. And there's a lot of competition. Like it's an up and coming place.
It is an up and coming place, but it's actually a little bit. I'm trying to think of what I want to reveal right now and what I don't. I guess as far as that, that's the impression that the rest of the world sees. As far as what it is, pretty much the ruling merchants, they call them the merchant princes, the ones who got their foothold and they grew first. They kind of run this place, and they have a monopoly on their goods that they deal in. They're not going to let anybody take that. So it is, while it is up and coming, and it is an attraction for all these merchants, in reality, it's actually probably a lot more restricted than what they're used to.
There are still powers that be that are going to do
Absolutely.
everything they can to make sure that they stay
Exactly.
in control.
Yep. So yeah, it has this illusion of freedom and up for grabs, but really it's a lot more oppressed than even what you would experience in Waterdeep or in the Gate or anything like that. But yeah, so that's, in the wall, the large stone wall obviously erected around the city, and then of course you've got your settlers that were kind of pushed out, living on the outskirts.
I wanted to ask a little bit about reputation in Port Nyanzaro. The reason why, when we met with Zimwabi, the reason why he wants us to go on this mission in exchange for the papers is to preserve his reputation.
Yes.
We're talking about it's sort of an up and coming city. There's a lot of trade happening. And in a place like that, reputation is pretty important.
It's extremely valuable. Yeah. Reputation goes a long way. When these adventurers, they're coming to a new world, they're the first thing they're going to do is find a guide that can show them the ropes, show them the ins and outs of this strange land. And that guide needs to be trusted, essentially. So, and that's where the reputation is probably more so valuable to these guides than the average Chultan for those reasons.
Is that something that more than just guides concern themselves with?
I imagine, depending on social,
Merchants.
yeah, exactly, yeah, depending on what circle they're in, and for obvious reasons where reputation can take them. But as far as specifically Zimwa B went, that was his drive. Is as an aspiring guide, he needs that reputation. If he doesn't have that, and everyone knows that he fails as a guide, he's what's he going to be?
So Zimwa B comes off as kind of a coward. What was Copernicus's impression of Zimwa B?
He's a man out for himself. So,
like any other man.
yeah, Copernicus dealing with like the Thieves Guild and Baldur's Gate is just used to that kind of mentality. Yeah, he's fine with it. He can roll with it. He knows how to work with that kind of person, I guess.
Okay. What about Zavril?
See, I don't know. I took it as he was honest. Now, granted, he's a coward and I wouldn't trust him with my life, but I appreciated the fact that he was honest initially. You know?
Did May have any impression of Zimwabi?
Irame liked him. Irame likes everybody. But she thought she does. But she got the same thing that Zavril did, the honesty and the fact that he was going back, whether it was for reputation or not. Even if it's for your own self-interest, how much of a coward can you be to brave it again?
Right,
Just
exactly.
for your reputation, you know? So I like him. I think that he, in a lot of situations, will prove valuable. I do think, though, that, like, I get this impression that Quincy sort of wants to, like, invigorate him, like, make him not a coward a little bit. But I think that won't change. I think Zimwabi's might not look, he might portray it to us like I am a coward, but I think it's just survival to him. Like, I feel like he'd be like, I just can't fuck with that, and I'm not going to try to, because I want to live, and I'm out.
Quincy, I don't think Quincy's trying to change anybody, but I think Quincy's willing to, he's willing to see the potential in everybody.
Yeah.
And willing to assume that that person is going to, like, meet their potential.
Yeah, essentially that's what I feel about him. If he can do good, but not at the cost of his own life, he will do good. But at the cost of his own life, he's out of there.
So I got a quick question before we wrap things up here. You guys, pretty much across the board, you can correct me if you didn't feel this way, just the impression that I got when we were in the moment, you were very angry. You felt that you were misled once again by Daniel Devitas about the Charter of Exploration with Zimwabi. It's almost like you guys expected just to go and meet this guy, and he was going to hand you a charter. Like the deal was already made and done.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed that because at no point did Daniel give that impression, but I think because of the incident at the dock, you kind of
Already
created it.
Yeah.
Right.
and I was loving it.
That's funny because when I re-listened to the episodes, like my impression was completely different than while we were playing the game. And I was totally right there, like thinking like, oh man, we thought this was a done deal. You know, we were going to come, we were going to pick up the papers. That's all we had to do.
I mean, not so much that we just had to pick up the papers, but the fact that Devitas was supposed to go, but we took his place to go there. You know, was Devitas going to be doing this? I guess that's where it was misled.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because what was the first thing Zimwabi said to you guys when he saw you? You look worthy. You know, you look capable. You look quite capable. So clearly,
and he also said that he expected that we were working with Devitas.
I thought he was just schmoozing us. Your mate doesn't look capable of shit.
Well, Zimwabi he's an opportunist too. Yeah. If Daniel Devitas was there, I'm sure he would have worked out another deal. But what he saw was somewhat of an adventuring party, and he saw an opportunity, and that was the deal that he presented.
I think Quincy was frustrated.
I think they both took advantage of
it. Absolutely.
In that aspect.
And I think Quincy was feeling frustrated, but I think Copernicus was feeling actually pissed off.
Yeah. Most of that episode. I wanted to smash Devitas.
So let me...
And then by the time we got to Zimwabi, I was just like, yeah, not surprised.
So let me ask you this, and it might put you on the spot, and you can, you don't have to answer. But working with the Thieves Guild, dealing with people like Zimwabi, I'm sure you dealt with plenty of guys like Daniel Devitas as well. What was it about Daniel Devitas specifically that got under your skin to where you...
Well, during the battle, Copernicus went down, almost died.
Okay, so it was more of a personal...
Yeah.
Okay.
The fact that he almost died set him off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I figured as much. I assumed it was more of a personal vendetta rather than...
Yeah, that's so all it was.
He cut the beast loose. The beast almost
kills
you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So in his mind, it's Devitas's fault. But then when he was starting to see there was a plan behind it and, sneaking behind the back kind of stuff, he likes that in a way. So,
But still, like if,
But
we're,
knowing
if
that-
we're a team, he
Right.
should fill us in a little
exactly.
bit.
We said that to him in the warehouse. You need to keep us on the up and up. If it happens again, I don't know what Copernicus will do. I guess we'll find out.
Guess we'll find out. All right, guys. Well, unless there's anything else you guys want to mention,
We out of time?
we're about out of time here. I got to start wrapping things up. Thank you all once again for joining us for another bonus behind the scenes episode of the Natty 19 podcast.
We'll see you episode 4.
We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bow, 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 bow.